All right, we're
Welcome.
good.
All right, cool, cool, cool. Welcome back to another episode of the Power of the Story podcast. I'm your host, Phenom, and today I have with us Arthur Price the third. He is a former LSU athlete, Division One. He is currently a professional, and I say professional track and field athlete, and he's also written two books. Arthur, thank you so much for giving us your time and being with us today. Thank you, thank you. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first off, thank you for having me. It's a blessing and it really is an opportunity. It's kind of hot here in Louisiana, I'll tell you that, but got my little bottle of water and just making it. It's a great day, so no complaints over here.
It must not be too hot because you said you had the water, but I don't see that fan on in the background.
Yeah.
So,
Oh no, the fan. Well, actually, I gotta turn the fan back on because crazily enough, in this apartment, I got it on like 65 degrees, so I'm comfortable here.
oh,
And sometimes when I have the
okay.
fan on, it's like a winter wonderland. I'll tell you that. But we're thriving in here, so that's for sure.
Love to see it. Love to see it. So, like we were just telling the audience, you are currently a professional track and field athlete, but also you have written two books. So, what is your story? How did you get here?
So really and truthfully, actually, the idea kind of started back when I just graduated high school, and I think going to a private school, you're just like, man, like I'm so involved in just curriculum, and I want to seem very studious. So it's like I kind of want to write a book, and it wasn't until college, in 2020, right after the COVID pandemic just ended our season. I think everyone was like, what do we do? Like everything's closed, the track's closed, we can't work out, we're doing online virtual learning. It's like what can we do? And I started kind of freaking out because it's like my brain just kind of needed the stimulation. Like I needed to do something. And I started working out at this gym, and the owner was like, "Yeah, you have an amazing story. You should tell it one day." So I was like, "You know what? Maybe this is a sign to finally go through with writing the book." So
Mm,
what started out as just kind of like, okay, I want to do this, this, and that. It became something that really felt personal and was a way that I can get my story out while also connecting with other people. And thankfully, that was a reach with the first book, and with the second one, which has actually gained more traction. One of the biggest things and one of the biggest blessings is just being able to tell my story while also connecting with people and hearing their stories as well, and just really makes you feel interconnected in this social web of life. So I really love it and
mhm.
everything that's kind of come from it. So
That's amazing. I just first want to give kudos to you because you said that during the pandemic, you realized that you need to do something still to keep your
yeah,
brain active. You didn't want it to be idle.
yeah,
So, that says a lot about you right there that you felt that you still had to be productive. So, kudos to you for real for that. When you
thanks.
said that the first book, you really wanted people to relate to your story, and it started to do that. Before we even get to the second book, what about your story was so relatable to the audience that was reading it that touched home for them?
So so admittedly, I was going through a lot during the pandemic as well because during the season there was just so much that went on. I actually messed up my hamstring the first race of the season, and
Mm,
it was crazy. And then just even getting that extra year, I had to present my mother's death certificate to the NCAA to prove that, hey, like this is why I sat out 2 years, so give me another year. And then through
mm,
all of that, I was also dealing with just kind of a broken heart and a friendship that I just kind of dissipated. So I think just everything that I was going through really allowed me to really get in deep and personal and really open up about topics such as racism and loss of family and just all things that I feel like people can relate to. And I don't think if I didn't have those things occur prior, I probably would not have been able to really get in touch with my emotional side and to have the confidence to open up. So it really helped out a lot, and man, I'll say it was worth it. It wasn't easy writing though, because there were some chapters that actually took a lot longer to write. So, for example, the chapter about my mom, I stopped constantly because I just started tearing up, and then there were chapters I knew I just needed to write down. So, overall, it was a fun experience. It was a great experience, but definitely getting personal um, really allowed me to be able to relate to people. So,
Mm. Yeah, I can tell that you definitely put your heart and soul into the book.
oh
That's
yeah.
yeah. How long did it take you to write that book?
Oh man. So, growing up, I always did kind of dabble in poetry and stuff like that, or just writing.
Hmm.
And ironically, I'm not really as much of a reader as people might think. Like I do sit down and read, but I'm not like, reading 4 books a week like some people. But
4 books a
uh
week?
yeah, well I've heard some crazy things. I've just recently there's this lady who was in charge of like my recent book signing, and she was
Hmm.
telling me how she goes through like 4 or 5 books a week, and I'm just like, ooh. So yeah,
Did you ask her how many
writing
pages?
wise,
10 pages?
what's up?
15 pages? How long
Oh
how long then? 20 pages?
yeah,
It
yeah,
gotta be like 20
yeah. I no,
pages.
yeah. Well, I mean, she said she got through the Harry Potter book within I think maybe like a day or so, and I'm talking about the seventh one actually. So yeah, so she's a beast, I'll tell you that. But for me, writing wise, going back to what I was saying, some chapters took a little bit longer to write, but I think overall, um, I'll say I want to say I started in March and I didn't get done until October. And crazily enough, I thought that that was enough time to really just have everything all together.
Hmm.
And admittedly, like when I published the first book, I was kind of disappointed because I was like, I feel like it's all together, but I still feel like I probably should have taken more time to really organize everything. So it did take some time, but I feel like I could have spent more time to really get everything through, which is why with the second book, I took 2 years and really had a plan of action. And it showed because a lot of people, I mean, it has a 5-star review right now on Amazon, and a lot of people really
Mm.
love it. So yeah.
That's amazing. I can definitely relate to you on that because my first book, I rushed it, but I intentionally rushed it. And when I got it done, it was more of, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Like, man, I actually was able to have an idea, put it on paper, get it out, and people read it. Like that's something that not many people can do. But then in hindsight, I'm like, man, I could have really taken my time with this, put some deep thought into it, and really made it hit for people more, which is what you did
Exactly.
for your second book, because now you said you took 2 years to write this book that you just did finish. And so what were some of the lessons that you took from that first book that or yeah, from the first book onto the second one?
So I think the biggest lesson, because I mean there are some, but I think the um, overall, the biggest lesson overall was to really get deeper, if that makes sense. To really like, okay, we touched upon some things here, there, whatever, but let's really get deep, but let's explore it in a manner that has a specific theme and is very unique. So for the second book, well, for the first book, it's titled "For the Man Who Walks Tall," and "walk tall" was a phrase that I actually coined in 2016 whenever I was going through transition of okay, LSU's football team they want me, but I also want to play or I also want to run track, but I'm told that because just I wasn't coming in as a highly touted recruit, it's either this and that, it's not and, so I gave up football for track and I was unsure of what would happen. So I coined the phrase "walk tall" to just continue moving forward and to go through everything. And then once I got done with LSU, it's like I kind of put "walk tall" behind me because I attribute that phrase and just that coinage to my experiences at LSU. But it's like now that my life is essentially moving forward, what's next? So I just thought about overall just my dreams and aspirations and just who I am as a person, what probably defines me. And even in my first book, my dream basically started one day coming home from school where me and my mom were discussing stars, and stars was something that me and my mom used to really just look at all the time, which is actually why you can probably see I got a little star pendant. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell.
So yeah, it's a North Star. So my dream and just overall the theme of the book is to become a king in my own right, whether it's or just in the way that I would define it. So taking that home, it's like, okay, well, how can I really get this point across so people can really understand me, my dreams, and just overall, I guess, my visual of life. And that's why I took a step back and was like, okay, I want this book to be deeper but not darker, because the original draft of the book was a lot
Mm,
darker. But I was like, I don't want to make it depressing, you know.
yeah.
So that's why the book is titled Stardust Dreams, and it's actually it's very unique. And the overall theme of the book is celestial, but each chapter title kind of relates to what the specific theme of the book is going to be. So, for
Hmm.
example, the second chapter of the book is titled Galaxy Eyes, and it details my last year at LSU, but also kind of recounting just how I even approached the team. You know, it's like you come on the team, you're bright and you're just bright eyed, you're anxious, kind of like a galaxy that's burning, and then all of a sudden you just kind of like dim out, and you're like, oh well, this was it, you know.
Yeah.
So
Right.
just having that theme and that celestial theme, and just really using it to portray who I am with each chapter, I think is definitely the biggest lesson overall, and apparently it's hit. So it's hit with a lot of people, and I also included little QR codes too in the book as well, so people can kind of scan it and be linked up to a soundtrack. So they'll read the book, link it, listen to the soundtrack, and they really get it. So I really feel like from the
Wow,
first
that's
to second
different.
book, yeah. So from the first to second book, it's definitely like, okay, I want to take my almost like my essence and put it into my writing, if that makes sense. So I know that was a long description, but that's just the
Nah,
process.
I love that. Honestly, I may have to try that on my next book. Put a QR
Yeah,
code and put a little soundtrack so they can really that's
yeah.
different. I like that. I like the way you think. I
Well, I
like
will.
that.
Well, let me admit to you. So the QR code, the soundtrack QR code was my idea, but when I was discussing the book with my friend, she was like, "Well, why don't you have a QR code to your website in the book?" And I was like, "You know what? I'll do even better. I'll have a QR code, or no, to the website. I was like, I'll have a QR code to a soundtrack." So,
Mm.
so yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's been done before, but still, it's just that's I feel like what makes it unique and more interactive and immersive.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's cool. So, speaking of the way that, you're thinking, I want to go back to something that you said because I didn't realize that you were or you had the option to be a football athlete as well in college.
Yeah.
And to make a decision like that to run track instead of football, which has obviously changed the trajectory of your current life right now because you're a professional track and field athlete. So to somebody listening to this, what type of decision making skills or what type of thought process did you have to go through to make that type of decision? Not even necessarily for just sports, but just something that's huge like that. What was what was going through your mind?
So, just to kind of give you a little history about me, my mom actually suffered from dementia, and she passed away in 2018. And with everything, just the current climate of just more awareness with brain-related injuries with football, it was kind of a motivating factor to really drop football. But I will say this: it definitely was very difficult because football was something. And I mean, I still watch the Saints. I still cheer and I watch LSU football and stuff. But football, especially in the South, is something that a lot of people grow up with. And I always had the aspirations of playing quarterback. So whenever I was a freshman in high school, I'm not gonna lie, probably my first experience with racism was just even walking through the locker room. And this is
Hmm.
is a majority white private school, and there were two guys in front of me, and they were like, "Oh, well, I play quarterback," and the coach gave them the gear and stuff. But when I went and basically introduced myself, they were like, "Well, what position you play?" I was like, "Well, I play quarterback." He looked down at his paper and he looked up at me and he asked anything else. Yeah. So
Wow.
so 3 days into it, they tried to convert me to a wide receiver, and I mean, I don't have hands. I've just always been fast and shifty, so just going from that and just kind of the disappointment that I had, and by the time I got to college, I'm just like, okay, ULL. Because originally I actually signed with ULL. I'm like, well, ULL said that I can come and play football and run track. Once I got there, that wasn't the case.
Hmm.
So get to LSU, and I've had people throughout the LSU community who know me from my time in high school. I mean, I was getting recruited as a 2 and 3 star recruit.
Right.
So I came in and I was like, I really want to do this, but I also really want to do track. But they gave me a more of an ultimatum than an option, and it was, well, it's either you play football or you go run track. And just at that time, I was like, man, I really haven't played any meaningful snaps in about 2 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And just concerning like my mom's condition, I was like, man, I really, like I said, like football is something that I wanted to, like, I imagined myself going in the NFL, having that lifestyle and everything. But when I finally decided to give it up, crazily enough, it almost felt like weight was lifted off my shoulder. Just the burden that I
Mm,
placed and, just this, I guess, burden of expectation and success that I put on myself, which was just unfair at the time. I just told
right.
myself, you know what, it's best if I just let it go. So
No. Question. So I something that I keep noticing, you keep referencing your mom, and it seems like
yeah,
everything that
yeah.
that you brought up. So it's quite obvious that your mom has a lot to do with who you are, your story, your books, your athletic career, all that type of stuff. How important is it for somebody to have somebody that's influential, like your mom is to you, in their life to be able to inspire them to just become a better person and maybe even write their own books?
So it definitely is important, and I think honestly, in high school, whenever my mom's health started to decline, I was kind of lost because growing up, my mom was literally the voice of reason. She was bringing me wherever I essentially wanted to go. I mean, I was spoiled. If I needed a new football, she would give me a new football. If I wanted McDonald's for breakfast, she would bring me to McDonald's, even though she cooked, this amazing meal and everything like that. I mean, that's just the thing. And I mean, there were times where we would have holidays that we would just spend together and the Mickey Mouse theme and just playing the tree. So it's just you go through
Mm,
life and you have that person that's kind of like your best friend, and then all of a sudden, whatever may happen, it's kind of like that's taken away from you and you're lost. So I think it was probably my sophomore year of high school. My high school coach, who I still, I mean, crazy. I still call him like a stepfather. Like he really is like family still. If he didn't just open himself up and be like, look, if you need someone to fill that void, I'm that guy, I'm that person. I definitely would not be in the situation I am today. So I really credit him and my mom just to everything that I've accomplished. And obviously, more people are responsible for helping, but if we're talking about the main people, just having that person, it's important because you do need to have someone to make sure that you're on the right track and to have that it doesn't have to be from family either. It definitely doesn't have to be from family, but just knowing that someone cares, especially in the sports landscape where it's like if you're hurt, coach is like, okay, next guy up. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
So it definitely having just that. It doesn't have to be a million people. It just has to be that one person who you can just go to and be like, I need advice and just to feel loved and to feel at home. So it's definitely important. And for anyone out there who definitely feels they need that person, my relationship with God has helped me through, and I understand that it might be a little hard for people, but look towards faith, look towards the people around you, and just open up yourself and your heart. And it's crazy what you'll find when you do that. So
Yeah. There was back to where you were saying about the your high school coach. I can definitely relate to that on a certain aspect because I didn't start running track until my senior year of high school. And I gave it 110, 120%, but I wasn't the fastest out there. But my coach but my coach saw that the effort that I gave, and he asked me one day towards the end of the season, he was just like, do you want to run track in college? And I was just like, I'll go for it. Yeah. And it was him seeing the effort and the hard work that I put in consistently that allowed me to change essentially the rest of my career, because if it weren't for me running track in college, there were so many things that just piggybacked off of that. So definitely what you were saying, sometimes it just takes one person, it may not
Yeah,
even be a family member, to just to see you differently, to believe in you, that can really change the trajectory of your life, of your career. So I can definitely relate to you on that, and I'm glad that you also had that outside support within a coach to be there for
yeah.
you. So when it comes to your second book, you're right now is doing really well. What is somebody that, if they were to pick up the book today, that you're like, you know what, if there's one message that I want you to get from it, what's that one message?
I would say to keep believing in yourself and your dreams. And the tagline actually for the book is man, it's a I can't wow, hold on, give me a minute. Um I forgot, but I forgot my own tagline for the book. Wow, it's
It's like
that's
that
actually
sometimes.
yeah, it's embarrassing, but oh, that's what it is. So it's keep your eyes in the sky, your heart in the stars. So what that I guess is kind
Mm,
of the overall theme of the book is to, have a dream, to stay focused, and to really believe in your dream. So that's why you keep your eyes on the sky. And actually, I'll even show you really quick. So I actually had an artist by the name of Lissa actually. So I'm kind of shouting her out as well on this. She did the painting or did a painting for the book, and it kind of relays that message of keeping your eyes on the sky, heart, king, everything like that.
that's
So
dope.
definitely just believing in yourself and believing in your dreams, I think is probably the biggest takeaway. And also just being kind to yourself as well, because it's not going to be easy, but if you continue to believe in yourself and your dreams, then over time, great things will happen. So,
That's very true. So, speaking of great things happening, what is next? To anybody listening to this right now, what can they expect next from you? Let's say the next year, and let's just say the next 5 years.
so I'll say within the next year, man, I have a lot of great plans, especially with track. And I think the book kind of put the cherry on top of just the transition I'm going through in my life. I moved away from the LSU area, so I'm still trained there. I just live 20 minutes away instead of like right on campus, which is kind of different. But still training with my coach. I changed up my hurdle technique. I'm a seven stepper now instead of an eight stepper, which is something I did my entire life. Um, Wrote a book, but just the plans that I have for track going forward, as well as just my writing in life, it's exciting, and I already kind of decided that, which I already decided this when I even wrote the first book, that it's going to kind of be a mini trilogy. So if anyone was interested on Amazon, it's called the Kingly Journey. That's the trilogy. So there will be a third one out. I haven't really dabbled in what I'm gonna include in it because I'm still kind of focused on the second one and even the first one to a degree. But 5 years down the line, I'll say writing wise, I definitely want to publish kind of my first fictional novel as well, just to kind of like really get this fantasy world that I've kind of always wanted to write about, but I'm still kind of learning, and that's why I really want to take extra time because I've been reading Harry Potter, I've been reading anime, and just seeing like how I want to go about telling this like fantasy land ish story that makes sense.
Hmm.
But definitely just with track, the book itself, and just overall life. And being 26, I used to think 26 was old, but people were
Nah,
like
man, we're
26 was
young.
literally yeah, we're young. So definitely, if I'm blessed to continue living a year from now, 5 years from now, I definitely, no matter what I do, really want to go about it in the best way possible and just really honor all the people that have helped me got here. Because I mean, let's just be real, like people have helped me get here. It's not all on
Mm,
my 2 feet. I mean, whether it's my mom, my family, my coaches, friends, whatever have you, who have sometimes even been strangers, just pick me up off my feet and just tell me keep going. And crazy enough, it's really just a quick story. I actually was kind of deciding to end writing after the second book because I'm just reaching out to all these places and it just seems like no one is really like picking up on the book. And I end up calling this bookstore actually in New York because I'm like, well, maybe let me reach out of not New well reach out in New Orleans, Baton Rouge area. Like, let me see. And the lady said that her bookstore actually closed down. And I'm getting ready to get off the phone, right? And we ended up having like an hour conversation. So she told me to keep writing and to not be dismayed. And sure enough, 2 weeks after that, I get an email from this restaurant in New Orleans who has a literacy program. And like, Mr. Price, how much would it be for between 50 and 75 copies of your book? So yeah, so if that's not some motivation, then
Nice.
that's something. So yeah. And actually
That is huge.
she actually emailed me a few days ago and she's like, "Hey, can you order me 10 more copies?" So
All
yeah.
right. That is beautiful. One thing
Yeah,
I heard recently that I want to share with you and all the other listeners is that your book may not is not always for everybody, but it is for somebody, and you just have to find
yeah,
who that somebody is. If someone's just like, us as people, we may not gel with everybody, but the people that we do mesh with well with, oh yeah, we
that's
cool. So
yeah.
it's the same thing with books as well. So I'm glad that you're starting to find those restaurants and the bookstores, people that are really interested in your story because you definitely have a great story that people should hear because it's going to inspire them. So, but before we head out, I just want you to one last time give the name of both of your books and also how people can find you and support you as well.
Gotcha. So the first book is titled "For the Man Who Walks Tall." The second book is titled "Stardust Dreams." Both books are available on Amazon. Admittedly, I'm trying to move away from the Amazon scene just for financial and personal reasons. So definitely stay tuned for that. But to anyone that wants to find me or whatever, my Instagram and Twitter is the same at underscore Arthur Price the third. And just shoot me a little text or whatever. And I mean, I try to reply to everyone. I'm not really a social media as person all the time. I try to be, but definitely, if you reach out to me, definitely want to hear your thoughts. And just even if it's not about the book, just to connect and everything. So
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, you guys, this has been another episode of the Power of the Story podcast, and we cannot wait to have you for our next episode.
thank you. Love to be on. Thank y'all.
All right. So